Prince Philip and the Queen were with my father when he died.
That's so interesting. I love, obviously you're, like you said, you have such an outgoing personality. Was there someone, having grown up on the royal grounds and being so close to your father and Prince Philip, was there someone that you became close friends with before you had even met Diana within the royal family?
Well, Her Majesty, I mean, the Queen is amazing. And I can remember loving being in Buckingham Palace, for example. So I would go with my father, not during school, obviously school period, but during vacation. And I always remember the stationery as a kid. I mean, I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I always remember the stationery because it was of a certain size and a certain thickness of paper. I can still remember the smell, and it would make the most amazing paper aeroplanes. Where you could create, aerofoils and all sorts of things. So you can imagine standing at the top of one of those grand staircases with no drafts, and then throwing the plane would go on and on and on and on and on. I thought that was great fun. I used to love doing that. And I remember one day my father saying, "Now, where are you going to go?" And I said, "Well, I'll just go to the top of the grand staircase. Don't go any further." So I was just flying my planes, and I suddenly heard this voice, "What are you doing?" And I turned around, and there was Her Majesty. And I thought, what am I going to do? Or I don't know what 7 years of age. I don't know whether I said whatever.
Wow, that is like the ultimate getting caught.
I was really, and she didn't do this. She just simply said, "Come here. Oh, it's Stewart. Oh, come into my sitting room." So we went into her sitting room, and she switched on the TV, and it was sort of tea time. So she ordered tea for herself and hot orange juice, which I thought was a really weird choice. But anyway, I drank it. It was the Queen. I didn't say, "Oh, I don't want that. I want hot milk or something." I just drank it. And we had this conversation. I will always remember that.
Wow, that is incredible.
And then with Kate and William's wedding, I was invited, not centrally, but peripherally as a guest. And I was standing talking to somebody at the reception or a group of people, and suddenly there was this silence. And when there's a silence, you know that one of the royal personages had arrived. And here was Her Majesty. So this was, I don't know how many years later, the last time I saw her was probably in 82 or something. Okay. So this is 2011, isn't it? So that's many years. And she looked me up and down. She has these extraordinary blue eyes that see everything. And the person that she was with said, "Oh, do you remember Stewart?" And she sort of did this, and she said, "Well, his father was Joseph." "Oh, I so miss your father," she's immediately said.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting? Because both Prince Philip and the Queen were with my father when he died.
Right.
That they were shooting grouse in Scotland, October the 26th, 1975. Mm. And my father fell to the floor and was dead. And so Prince Philip gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to try and get him back. And the Queen, I think, was walking down, they're called the butts, on a hill where the men with the guns stand, and the birds are beaten up from way over there by the beaters. And I think she'd walked down the hill and heard this kerfuffle going on, so she ran back up to the top of the hill where my father was on the floor with Prince Philip over him, giving him mouth to mouth. I mean, they were sort of like brothers, I mean, it was always the royal distance. Don't get me wrong. He was a servant, and Prince Philip was Prince Philip, But also, when you spend intimate times, when you run somebody's bath, or you help them get dressed into some capacious uniform, if you're there alone on safari or tiger shoots in India, then there are personal sharing times.
Right.
Wow. You mentioned before sort of the tug of war between the tradition of the monarchy and the need to sort of be a little more inclusive, maybe. Do you have any insight into how that can work going forward? Because it seems like that's a question that has been dogging the monarchy for a couple decades now.
Well, I mean, the simple phrase is education, or the simple word is education. And I feel that that's really what's happening now, because after all, with the demise of Prince Philip, the old regime is beginning to alter, is beginning to dissolve. The next thing that will happen, hopefully not tomorrow, but in 5 years' time maybe, the Windsor family, as we know, are they have longevity. The Queen's mother was 101. The Queen is so strong. I mean, look at her at the G7 talks, just extraordinary. She seems indefatigable, although there's this gradual stoop that's now beginning to happen. So when the Queen goes, there's going to be a huge regime change. So I would suggest that right now, particularly because of the strike of liberation that Harry and Meghan have made, that what's happening is that the interior mechanism, the social organization of the royal family, the men in grey suits, that they're actually now in discussion about what is this to become. So they'll be making a point of definition about their own hierarchy of values. And then it's going to change completely.
Wow.
As we see with, with some of the other European royal households. I mean, for example, when we look at Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary of Denmark. Mary is originally from Melbourne, Australia, and she's beautiful, just like Kate is a middle-class girl from the home counties of Britain, and suddenly she's moved into this, she's the queen in waiting, isn't she, really? She looks absolutely extraordinary in her stillness, in her composure, in her dignity, in her gentleness, and her ease with people.
Yeah, she really does.
So yes, so I would imagine right now there's a huge social experiment being planned. What is this family going to be? How do we change constitutional monarchy? So they'll be meeting with constitutional lawyers. The Queen is very savvy, so she will also be instigating this. She's not an ostrich. She's lived through so many major social revolutions, the changes of prime ministers, the changes of governments, the Falkland Wars, all the stuff that's happened over the last 70 years, particularly. I mean, she's very savvy, as I think I shared with Molly when we first spoke. I can just imagine that when Harry fell in love with who, that he would say, "Grandmama, I've fallen in love." Wow, oh really, with whom? Well, she's an American. And she's an actress. Oh. And she's biracial. Oh. And she's a divorcee. Oh. Are you sure? I've fallen in love. I've fallen in love. Okay. So then enjoy yourself falling in love, and let's just see it out for a year, and then let's talk again. So it was not just crash, dive, wallop, as the British press have given indication it was. All of this has been strategized. So you can just imagine the Queen saying, what happens if this doesn't work? When you're senior members of the royal family, what happens if this doesn't work?
Right.
What is going to be the extrication process? Well, what we'll do is that we'll demote ourselves, and through your permission and your love, and we'll move to the United States. How about that? So all of this is being thought about. I mean, these are intelligent people we're talking about.
Right. No one's.
They may be emotionally withdrawn, but they otherwise they wouldn't be where they are.
Absolutely. Right. There's a lot of thought to it. Well, Stewart, you have the best stories. I could have you, I need you to come on the show every week. Tell us everything. I am so fascinated, but right after this, I'm going out to buy the book. Tell everyone why they should go out and buy it.
Hey, bless you. Do. And, please write me a testimonial.
I will.
And I'll use it.
Yes.